Hi, Damani.
Hello, hello.
First things first, I have gone through a lot of your videos, a lot of your work.
Yeah.
And one thing that I am very sure of right now, since we have spoken for the last half an hour, last 30 minutes, is that you're someone who internalizes a lot of things, right? I'll talk about people who experience certain things and yet they don't learn. There are a lot of people who think experiences teaches us, but I feel it doesn't until and unless you sit, internalize it, understand, at least be able to speak it out, able to understand, decipher, write it down. Until and unless you don't do this, I don't think any experience can teach you anything.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
And now that I've spoken to you, I understand this, that you have internalized a lot of things, let it be bad or good.
Yeah.
And I think it has worked your way and has made you the person you are today. So I want to understand that aspect first.
Sure.
At what age did you start internalizing? At what age did you start? What are the things?
I must be honest. From the time I was very young, I always internalized, because at the end of the day, the idea of me having a group conversation or sharing my feelings or whatnot was never something that I was comfortable with. Obviously, as I said to you before, I was diagnosed with autism, so it made sense in my later years to understand why I did that. You know what I mean? I was never comfortable to be the center of attention or to admit that, oh, I have an issue and I need help solving it. So I spent a lot of time obviously reflecting on problems, reflecting on situations, what happened, and learning how to deal with them within the community norms, if that makes sense. What helped a lot, and I must be very, very honest, is my martial arts. So as I said, I have 20 plus years martial arts, and martial arts is the study of self. That's what it is. I mean, the Western world took it and made it into sports and belts and whatever. But if you look at traditional Chinese Kung Fu as an example, there's no belt structure. It's all about mastery of yourself. So that helped me as well find out who I was, who I am, and how I should deal and how things impact me. And I'm actually at a stage based on that discovery that I'm peaceful. I'm very peaceful. So I hope that answers. But that's the truth. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. How did you get into martial arts? As in,
my father years ago for primary school. That is very big. So just a little bit of a back history. One of the most fun traits that I think I have with my parents or with my father is, every time a Kung Fu movie came out, back in the day, he'd take me to the drive-in theater, because that was big. You go to the drive-in theater and we would go as father and son, and we would watch, the old Kung Fu movies, Jet Li, Tai Chi, Bruce Lee movies. We would watch Jackie Chan, Drunken Master, those type of, films. And that was very fond memory. So my dad, albeit he is not a fighter, he's not a martial artist, but he loves boxing, he loves fighting, he loves that type of stuff. So he put me in it quite early. So I started with Taekwondo, and I did that obviously to a very high level. And then I switched out of that when I moved to the UK, and when I met my Sifu now, which is his name is Sifu Mark Davis. He has his own system of martial arts called MD, and I met him maybe about 15 years ago now, and I've been training and studying under him ever since then. And he is very responsible for, I guess, the peace, the discipline, the dedication that I have, and also even now what I'm doing, where I've now taken that to a larger audience, whereby I want to give back and help. So he's very much responsible, and martial arts is very much responsible, because it's a beautiful thing in that I believe the journey of finding out who we are is lifelong. And it changes as we age, as situations happen, as the environments change. Our internal, as you say, our internalization changes, our belief system changes. So he was very, very big, you know what I mean? And martial arts has been very, very big to help me understand who Damani is.
You just mentioned that you had to go through this societal norms,
yes,
right? Which necessarily doesn't always support an individual, and might look at someone in a much more different lens, right? So I want to understand, what were the norms that made you uncomfortable back then and even now, if it makes sense.
Okay, so biggest thing, I mean, that I can reference from the time I was a kid is like, we have family gatherings. I'm sure you guys do. I've seen it here. They're very close-knit family structures. So we would go, my mom would come and tell us, we're going to your aunt's today, for lunch, and all the family is going to be there. And as a kid, I was like, but Mom, I don't really want to go. You know what I mean? And obviously I didn't have a choice, you know what I mean? But then you get there and you're a bit awkward, everyone is socially interacting and what's not. And I used to kind of sit and want to watch TV or play video games and that kind of way. So I don't like to use the word, we call it in the Caribbean, we say, the black sheep. I'm not sure if y'all refer it. So I stood out in the family and I got on very well with certain individuals, and others I was just the cousin or the person. I was there and I was acknowledged, but I didn't feel included. You know what I mean? If I look at school days, I have one of my best friends, me and him have been friends now for 35 years. You know what I mean? This is like my brother. But my friend circle was very close knit, in that, persons that I would sit with, I would want to spend time with and what's not. The group was very, very small because I never wanted to be, and it's not that I craved it. I just never wanted to be the center of attention. I never wanted, and even if I bring this forward to 5 years ago when with Cinco, the same, so my best friend works for my company. He's my finance manager. He said to me, you need to go on social media. You need to get more involved. Like the things you say, the way you inspire us, you should share that. And I was like, no, there's no way I'm doing that. You know what I mean? I don't want the attention. I don't want the, that type of thing. And it's only because, as I said, it kept playing. People kept telling me, you changed my life. I've had students say to me that, because I teach martial arts now as well. I've had students come to me and say, Damani, you've changed my life. You've helped me make decisions that I struggle to make. I've had people come up to me and say, you need to film this. You need to talk. You need to be involved. People need to hear, because a lot of what you say is very pure. It's very true, because I tell people, look, I give of myself. I give it. If I'm speaking to you now, it's not rehearsed. It's not. I'm just telling you what I feel, and it's the truth. And you can feel that from me. So at the end of the day, it's like, I just decided that, okay, I'm going to force myself out of that norm, force myself out of that keeping to myself and keeping my beliefs and my values, because I found it then in my later years a bit selfish. So, okay, so I have this ability to solve my problems, to come up with solutions and decisions, and to make decisions based on feeling, stuff like that have impacted me successfully throughout my years. Why not share that ability with people so that they can help better their lives? Because as I became more spiritual, like I've always, listen, I can go back and tell you, I was always in church. My parents are Christian. They believe, they raised me in the church. I was confirmed, baptized, all of these things as growing up. But I only found the connection to spirituality, really, I should say really connection, when I went searching for it. Does that make sense? And I went on the journey and I realized that, I studied obviously Christianity, I studied Buddhism, I studied Taoism in China, I went to Japan and I studied, I forget the name, apologies, but I studied their thing, and I did samurai culture, which is very spiritual. I did stuff like that, and I got an understanding of spirituality and the connectivity of spirituality, because I do believe that all spirituality is connected. And then I realized, okay, this is a part of me. How do I strengthen that connection within myself? And that has been the driving force towards me Enjoy My Journey, to me helping people, to me wanting to give back, because we were placed here to use the talents that we're given to help the world and to help the people around us. And if I help one person in this room with a conversation, then I'm fulfilling that purpose. And that's why I decided, let me just drop the barriers, come out of my comfort zone, and actually be the person that maybe I was supposed to be. And that's the way I look at it. Yeah.
I really want to understand how did you deduce your purpose of life. To understand that, but when was the time that you thought, this is what I want to do, this is my purpose?
I think, as I said, when I went through that period from about 39, okay. So I'm 42 now, and when I hit 39, I had this, I cannot describe it to you. I had this wavering feeling that this is not it. This is not the only thing I'm supposed to do. So I had built, my IT company is 12 years old now. We're an ISO regulated company, international clients, we multi-million-dollar company, and I have offices in Canada, I have offices in Barbados, and so I've done fairly well on that. But then something within me was saying, this is not the end, this is not it, this is not the only thing, that you're saying. It's not saying that give up what you're doing. This is saying this is not it for you. This is not the only thing you're supposed to do. And I couldn't wait. I could not shake that feeling. So then I also had the feeling I should explore a bit, travel, find out what it is, maybe go search for what it is that I'm meant to do. And that led to travels when I was 39. I've traveled to South Korea, Japan, Malaysia, Cuba, all over the Americas, Canada. I flew everywhere that year that I could think of, that I felt to go to, but not with a plan or like, oh, I have a structure.
Not like an agenda.
Not agenda. I just landed, and wherever it took me, I went. You know what I mean? And I met the most amazing people, and I had the most amazing scenarios. The only thing that I did consistently in all of the locations was my martial arts. So I used the travels as an opportunity to study karate in Japan, ninjutsu in Japan, Chinese kung fu in China. I did salat in Malaysia. You know, I used that to hone my kung fu, but also hone my spirituality. So, but it was again, oh, you should go meet this person. And I went and I had a conversation like how we're having it now. And that led to something, or oh, you should come to temple and meet this person. And you know, it's like a spiral effect. Same thing has happened here in India. You know, I came here with Santosh had a plan. I wasn't even aware of what it is we were doing, but things came up. Like the Hare Krishna run was the last minute. Oh, you know what? You guys should go do the 10K. And I said, okay, I'll go do the 10K. And then at the end of it, me, the guy that I'm very humble, you know, and they got people coming up to me saying, I follow you, can I take a selfie? And you should meet this person. And I was shocked because I have 52,000 followers, but you know, I still see myself as the guy that has 10. You know what I mean? So to get that embrace, but also then to be introduced to people and the founders of the run and the president of the ISKCON temple, and has just been phenomenal, because it's almost like, and then him sharing the values that I share and wanting to collaborate, work together. But this is the journey, and hence the whole, you know, enjoy my journey and this side of the business, because I believe that we were put here for purpose. We were put here in this life to do something. So at the end of the day, and to use the talents we have. You mentioned earlier that, you know, you've got a healthy IT background, you're co-founder of a business and what's not. Now, I'm not sure if it has happened as yet or if it did, but at some point you're gonna have the same feeling, like, okay, but what next? And maybe that's the podcast, because I've read the sign behind you a bit where people say this is not a podcast, this is life-changing and help understanding self. But you're doing this through this. And when Santosh told me about it, I was like, of course, I want to meet him as well, because I have questions. You know what I mean? It's just the nature of me, you know? So yeah, I hope that answers a bit more.
No, I'm really glad that you have took your time to see those details. For me, the podcast is also a journey. A journey not withstanding fame or anything else, but it's more about learning people and their perspectives. I am not yet sure. I think 5 years down the line, I was not sure why I was doing the podcast. You know, for 5 years down the line, it was just about meeting new people. But I think right now, it's beyond that. It's taking them on a journey of reflection.
Of course.
I feel extreme pride whenever I talk to someone about their past, about their present, about their future ideas. And somehow I take them into this lane of memory that they have grown, and I show them the mirror, you know, this is where you are right now. It feels really amazing as well when the guest tells me that, you know what, this was amazing. You know, I've never had this conversation for so long. And I think that's the whole purpose, you know.
Of course.
Let them come, discover, reinvent themselves, and probably down the line I'll learn some things from you or, you know, all the other guests. But having said that, I want to understand what has been life to you. How was life to you before 39 and now that you're 42? Like, how is life to you now? How different is it?
Before that, it was hectic. I mean, it's still hectic. You know what I mean? Let me not. If anything, it's more hectic now, but it's hectic with purpose. So before, I was chasing more contracts, money, you know, those types of things. Very selfish, you know. I would say selfish, but I mean, obviously, more well-being, more, you know. Not fame, but again, you know, I made $1 million last year and I want to make 2 million next year. You know, that type of Western achievement mentality. So I worked very, very hard. I worked, you know, I always have worked hard, but I worked very, very hard, but in a very sales-driven and personal gain type part of my that was where I was from 30 to, you know, or before 30 till 38, you know what I mean? As I said, you know, I was all about how can I earn, and it's all, listen, I was raised that way. I was raised to go to university, to get my degree, to study, and then get into the work and work and build yourself up and earn as much as you can and get that title so that you don't, listen, I was head of support for Santander, you know, like you got that title of, you know, that's what was deep rooted into me, you know, growing up from the family. You know, you have to be successful, you have to be this. And listen, there's this, education is important, success is important, you know, building up yourself and providing for those around you is important. But it was very selfish, you know what I mean? And what I realized is that there's never enough. There's never an end cap on wealth. So if I earned 2 million last year and I earned 3.5 million this year, and then next year I want 5 million, and then the year after that I want 7 million, you know? And then I sat down and I thought, but where's the end of that? I didn't feel fulfilled. In all of that I earned, I never felt a sense of, oh, you know what, this is enough now, you know what I mean? Or, oh, I can sit back and relax. It was always 5 million, but now I have 3 million in bills, you know what I mean? Or 3 million in expenses, so I need to earn 7 million. And then when 7 million, I invest in other things, and now I've got 5 million in debt, or in expenses, or in expenditure. So I realized, well, that's a spiraling cycle of, yes, I will just earn more. And yes, look, the building, the company will grow, and maybe I will have 4 offices and 5 offices and 300 employees and 400 employees. But where's the end of that? I still, at the end of that, don't feel like I'm doing anything other than paying employees and earning revenue. And then I realized that, so yes, okay. Then I realized, but actually it's my seafood that said to me, what is life, right? What is life truly about? So if I reference this to fighting, we were sparring, and he said to me, you know why you will never be able to beat me in a fight? He said, because you're fighting me with intent. You want to hit me. There's anger, there's frustration, there's all of these elements that you're fighting me with. And he said, I fight you with love. And I said, and when he said that, I said, whew. He said, because love is the strongest power. I said, I am fighting to teach you, to help you learn, to make you better, to help you learn yourself. And that love is the strongest power. And then I said, So then I thought, obviously, here we go with the internalizing again. So then I internalized that, and I really thought about that. And I said, but if love is the strongest power, and kindness and giving back, I mean, it's all over every spirituality that you could think. Every spirituality you touch says this. Love, kindness is the greatest power in the world. So then I decided, you know what? I need to change. I need to now stop focusing on earning money and trying to be more, and, you know, more titles and more accolades, as they say, and focus on how can I use that to help people, to influence the youth, to change the next generation, to take those that are in need out of need. How do I then flip that? So then I decided, okay, I literally spent a year or more going charity, exposure, all of these types of things. And as I said to you earlier, the charitable side is great. There's a need. I mean, I sponsor the Autistic Society in London. I do work with, I've sponsored Croydon Commitment, which is a youth initiative in Croydon. You know, all of these things I actively do, but I realize that, again, I'm not seeing where that goes. So when I give you 10 grand, 5 grand, whatever in charity for the year, and I write that off as CSR, as a tax deductible, where does that go? That just looks good on the business. But I actually don't see the work. But I see more work when I'm teaching martial arts and someone says, oh, can I have a conversation with you after class? And they tell me some of the issues that they're going through. Or they ring me randomly while I'm doing something to say, Damani, I just wanted to talk because I'm facing some issues at the moment, and can you advise me, and what would you do? And I help them that way, and then they say, you know, thank you so much. Like, this has really helped me, and you've really taken me out of a slump, and things like that. And I realized, well, this is what this is about. So I transformed the business, and I said, well, I'm gonna now work to give back. So I was invited to sit on the board for a big charity group called Legacy in Croydon. I couldn't do it because of my travels and my commitments, but I invested quite a lot of my time with them. I decided where I would go speak. I would volunteer, like we would volunteer. I now mandated, my other director and myself would volunteer our time to speak at, you know, universities and what's not help people, and what if I take on interns and bring them in, and I coach them and one-to-one them. And then I said, okay, but what else now? What more? And this is where I enjoy my journey came. and came about, because then I said, okay, I'll take this platform and try to mold people and work with people to make them their better selves, fix their mindset, fix their health, fix their nutrition, fix the things that they need, and give them the things that they need to be the best version of them. And that's where this all came from. And that was a transition from, I don't want to call it greed, but selfishness is a better word, to actually, I want to do this for bigger purpose. I'm now working to help, to influence, to lead people to the better life. Well, and to closer connection. This is holistic. Closer connection to God, closer connection to themselves, closer connection to the well-being, to their well-being, because I believe to receive the energy in martial arts, the body must be the temple, you know? So I just share that with people, not teach them, but I share my experiences and hope that some elements of what I share with them, they're able to take and build the house for themselves of success.
And this is going to be really interesting, because I really want to understand. I get it why you've started, your journey, of course. But I want to understand, what impact do you see this leaving, let's say in 5 years down the line? What kind of impact?
I was waiting for this, and I'm glad you've gone that line, because I don't live in the future. Yeah. So one of my studies, Buddhism teaches this. You know, you live in the now, right? So I live in the today, and I do as much as I can do today to better tomorrow. Does that make sense? But I don't sit down and, so I could sit here and say to you, I see that this will be the biggest movement in 5 years' time, and we will have 1 million followers, and I will be speaking on stages around the world. I could tell you all of that. But actually, I will achieve none of that unless I put the work in today, tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I try to live and deal, even this, I haven't prepped for this podcast. I'd be very, very honest with you. I told Santosh, and his brother was concerned, like, have you like looked him up, and have you done your research? And I said, no, I'm just gonna speak what I feel when I come here, right? Because I live in the today. So today I'm here right now, I'm with you, and I'm giving you my genuine self. You know what I mean? And my actions hopefully will influence the future. And people will take from this podcast and go, you know, this guy is really, you know, or they may not. They may go, you know, I don't agree with his points and principles. But the thing is that I will have an opinion, and I will share that opinion. And those that benefit from it, excellent, that's great. And those that also don't benefit from it, you know, maybe they can take, and they'll have reasons as to why I don't agree with him. And that is also impactful to them. So I try to make the decisions that I make now, in today. So obviously we've shot video today, and I have plans. Don't get me wrong. I what you said earlier about journaling and writing down, I do all of that. You know. So I may have journaled. You know, I'll have 500,000 followers by summer, but it's that doesn't matter if the work isn't put in day by day to achieve that. So I try to live in the today, and I don't live in the past. I don't live in the future. So I've made amends to the past, and I've forgiven. Let's call it that. The things of the past, the way I've been treated, or people that treated me badly. Because again, in my journeys, and I'll share this with you, again, in my journeys, I came across his name was Master O. He's from South Korea, and he's a guru from South Korea. And he did
He's a guru from?
A guru from South Korea.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
From Seoul.
Okay.
And he did a seminar in London. And I actually came across the seminar I was in Japan. And I remember I talked about that year that I did, and I was lying in bed, and it popped up on my Instagram, his seminar, and every ounce of my body said I need to do this seminar, right? So signed up for it, registered. It was 3-day seminar over the weekend in London, and I went and attended. And he talked about the same things we're talking about now. He talked about not living in the future, not living in the past, and not letting the past hold us there. So any trauma, any people that did you wrong, he talked about forgiveness. It's called ancestral history, right? And you must learn to forgive the sins of the past, because we are not here to judge, right? So once I did that, you know, I said, that's interesting. So I met with him on a one-to-one, and we got on very, very well, and he could feel my energy. He could feel like the purity of my conversation and what I was looking to do. And he also felt the fact that I was searching, you know, and he said that one of the things that stuck with me quite deeply was that he said there's always one member of a family that's supposed to lead the family to betterment. And again, I internalized that, and I thought about that, and I said, but what does this mean for my family? So then I went about the practice that he suggested, can I truly deeply forgive the things that happened to me in the past? You know, whether it was the family member that treated me badly, or because of my differences, or the friend that betrayed me. Can I seriously sit down and just forgive them? I forgive you generally. That's not a conversation that you pick the phone up and call them. That's a conversation with yourself that I said, you know what, I can let this go. And I can speak that out loud and say, you know, I actually forgive you. When I did that, again, I changed. I found the peace and so I disconnected from all of that negativity. I don't forget it, but I disconnected from it, and the ties and the anger and the pain and those things that affected me in my past. And I got to a stage where I'm genuinely peaceful. Like and you see, to be able to influence and help people, I have to be in a state of peace, because if not, all the trauma and stuff that I take on that people share with me would sink into me. And then I find myself moody or aggressive or angry when I'm done speaking with people, albeit I might have spoken to them nicely. But I don't feel that now. I have a one-to-one with a client that may be suffering serious trauma, serious upset, boyfriend issues, girlfriend issues, whatever it is that they're going through. And I can come off that call with my energy through the roof, because I know that I've influenced them, and it doesn't, their trauma, I only can think positively as to how to help them out of that place. It doesn't impact anymore. So that was a very, very big thing for me.
Right. You know, one thing that just got me is that when you spoke about forgiveness,
yes,
right, and you started forgiving, of course, not forgetting, but then forgiving. I'll tell you, to be very honest, again, forgiving someone is the toughest job anyone can do.
100%.
And when I just heard that you got to understand this part and you started forgiving people, and it's not about just calls, right, or talking to someone and forgiving, it's more about talking to yourself. I want to understand, how did you do that?
So, okay, I can answer this honestly. I have a very strong belief in God and my connection to Him. You see what I mean? And I've had a lot of interesting things happen. I don't want to get into that necessarily here, but I've had a lot of very interesting things happen, you know, that led me down paths in my life as I was growing up, and also especially now that I'm older and I'm working this journey. I've had a lot of experiences, but me understanding and taking the time to get to know who I am is how. So when I say that, I can ask questions here. Have you established your boundaries? What do you do when people cross your boundaries? You see what I mean? I have a strict list, as you say. I mean, I can't rattle it off to you right now, but I have a strict set of rules that I live by. And if you're in my circle, you're in my circle. And at the end of the day, if you break those rules, the disrespect, the whatever, you know, then you're out of my circle.
Right.
You see what I mean? And actually, you probably won't be let back in. You know what I mean? Because again, you don't need, for me to be positive, I must be surrounded by positive people. But it took a long time. As I said to you, I gather you're younger than me, but I went on that journey of self-discovery. And I spent the time with spirituality, with reading, with understanding, with conversations with people. You know, one of the things that I said to you I struggled with back in the day, I would meet people, even today, I meet people with the intent is, I want to have a conversation. I want us to talk, and I want to ask you questions that I feel and hear and understand how you would deal with it based on your specialty as a guru, as a priest, as a, you know, I went on that journey for myself, and it took years. It took years. And as I said, when I met Master O, even that, I couldn't forgive. There was one particular topic which I wouldn't talk on here, which I wouldn't necessarily say on here, that took me over a year to forgive. And I went to it, I thought about it, and you see, I reflect on in my own time, but I also meditate. So meditation is a very big part of martial arts, as you know. And now that I've achieved the belt that I have, you know, chi and movement and understanding energy and stuff like that is very big in the practice. So meditation is a very big part of that. So I spend a lot of time meditating. I spend a lot of time meditating pretty much every other day. I do meditation, and it may be 30 minutes, it may be an hour, it may be however long I can get into that mindset and that space, I do. And I spent the time reflecting and understanding Damani. And when I understood me and I found who I was, if that makes sense, or who I thought I am, or who I think I am, at least now, then I was able to go back and say, let me think about that thing that's holding me there. And am I truly at the point that I can let it go? And the way to test it is, so say you have a friend that is, disrespected you. You can't find yourself to be around them, to forgive them because it angers you and it what's not. But then I realized that when I truly forgive and I have that conversation with myself, and obviously I ask God to help me, and I ask, and I pray and I do all of these things. And I said, then the person could be sitting there right now and they could be giving me evils, they can be angry with me in their self, and it will not affect me now because I've forgiven you. And I understand that you're not at the place yet to forgive yourself and to move forward. You don't know yourself. You're clinging to that anger, that emotion, that negativity. I don't want to do that. I want to live my life in a place of negativity, right? But there's one big factor. Who is the one that forgives? Who is the one that decides? Who is the one that makes the choice, that judges? So in Christianity, they say when you die, you'll stand at heaven's gates and you either be let in or you won't be, right? God decides. God is the person that forgives. God is the one that influences our life. So at the end of the day, for me, how am I to judge and to hold on to something that was done to me for all of these years? I'm not telling you that I will go and be friends with the individual again, because you forgive, you don't forget, but you don't put the negativity back into your space for it to happen again. Right. You know what I mean? But I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to be the one to decide that this is how I should treat you for the rest of your life because you did this to me. That's God's job. That's not my job. My job is to forgive
and detach
and to detach and to move on. If not, I'm tied to that negative all the time. So that's my honest answer. And it took time, but it took mostly understanding of me and understanding more and more, which is still a journey of him or it or she or whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's what it took. Yeah.
No, again, this comes to the second question of detachment again.
Of course.
Because we're all living in a human world overly stimulated as of now, and everything comes down to desires, everything comes down to greed, of course. Right. So I want to understand, how does detachment working for you? How are you practicing detachment?
Detachment comes by sacrifice. So again, spirituality, martial arts come into play here for me, whereby what is it that, so again, my Sifu again, he told me years ago, he said, what is it that I have given up or I've made sacrifice to be the best martial arts that I can be? And that resonated with me. You see, one of the things, because of my mind, I don't forget things like that. I must understand. So I have a very curious brain. So again, it's like, what sacrifices has Damani really made? And at that time I made none. I don't sacrifice anything. So you talk about desires, you talk about whatever, but what sacrifice have I made? So on that journey, I stopped drinking alcohol. I gave it up completely. I gave up coffee. I gave up meat. You see, I made all of those steps because I felt to. Now, I also will tell you, my sacrifices are not yours. You know what I mean? So those are the things that I felt that, I can't. A drink once a week is nothing, because I grew up in a culture like Barbados is a party and a social drinking culture. That is what I grew up in. So to give up alcohol, I've even had my mother look at me and say, "Damani, you only live once." She said that to me, and I said, "But it's okay. I don't need it," because I realized that those things block the divine. If you want to call it the divine, the energy, the whatever, they block, because I now operate on feeling. I can feel people around me. I get feelings on decisions. I get, and I listen to those. But you can't do that if you're constantly stimulated. So I made sacrifices to get to that detachment stage, to get to that stage. I had to sit down and say, what is it that I'm willing to give up? And I'll be honest with you, I've given up these things and I don't even crave them, because the feeling to give up that thing wasn't mine. It was almost like I was shown this. And I said, it's like you're looking at an object, and it was there like this is the object that you need to get rid of. Stop it. You know what I mean? And that's the best way to describe it. I felt like I was supposed to give this up. And then from the time I did, I didn't even crave it again. No, I was tested. I believe a lot of people go, bad things are happening to me and I'm having obstacles and that's the devil. I don't believe that. I don't believe it's the devil. I believe God tests us to see how much do you want something. So I'm sure at some point with this podcast you faced hardship. We discussed it. You said there was struggle. People left and had to go back to their whatever, but then you got led back here to do it on your own. Those are the obstacles. How much do you want this to be successful? How much do you want? So how much? So at that time I was like, I want to be one of the best martial artists that I can be. But how do you truly want that? So as an example, I'm on a flight, right? I had just gone down this, I'm giving up alcohol. It's not even 3 months.
Right.
And I'm on a flight flying somewhere. And the lady said, what do you like to drink, sir? And I said, I'll have a soda water, right? Sparkling water. She brings it and it has lime in it as it normally does. And I sip this thing and it was alcohol, right? And then the second mind went, could as well just drink it because it was fresh, right? I didn't give it out. I was like, it's just one drink. It's fine. It'll be okay tomorrow. But then the right mind said, no, Damani, you made a sacrifice. That was my test. Again, and I've had multiple tests. And these tests don't end. So that was the alcohol test. So I called her and I said, sorry, you gave me the wrong drink. And she said, oh my God. I said, I don't drink alcohol. And she said, oh my God. And I said, don't worry. And she brought the sparkling water, right? But that wasn't the first test. You fly to Barbados. I just told you. I flew to Barbados and saw my mom. My mom was like, Damani, you only live once. Come on, one drink. No, mama, it's okay. You know, and bless her. Look, it's fine. If that's again, your life is yours to live. I don't judge. You want to drink, no problem. You could be here drinking. No, I don't have an issue. I have no issue with that. You know what I mean? But your choice is it's your body. It's your temple. So the tests don't stop because I believe very firmly he tests us to see, does he truly want this? Is he truly doing it for the right reasons? Right? Not for the fame, not for the popularity, not for the whatever. You're doing it to generally have conversations that help people reflect on who they are and build them up. Right? You can be nothing but successful if you pass those tests. You see? Because again, you do the podcast for good and to help and to give back and to influence people. And he sees this. And that leads you down a road of success, not down a road of greed and whatever. You see what I'm trying to say? And I firmly believe that. So I hope that answers the question.
This is really interesting because the more you're answering, the more questions I'm getting.
Good.
You know, I really want to understand what affects you on a daily basis, because I'll tell you, as far as I've understood, you have internalized, you have your boundaries, of course, very strong ones. You know how to forgive people. It takes time, I understand. But then I somehow feel you're sorted to an extent where nothing affects you, but at the same time you're a human being. You're just a human being. I want to understand what affects you.
Everything affects me. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit here and think I'm like sitting down like this. You know what I mean? That's just not it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So like things happen, right? And at the end of the day, like, you know, you have trauma happens, you have accidents happen, you have people that are aggressive to you happen, and what's not. But again, let me give you a scenario, right? We live in we all live. London is no different. We live in a hectic society. You drive down the road today, get in an accident, guy jumps out the car angry, he wants to fight, he tells you about your mom. You know, let's use something. I don't know if you could put. I try not to go too extreme on the whatever, but he insults your mother, and you get angry, and you argue with him back. But does he know your mom? You know, or better example, you're walking down the street and the big guy walks and bounces you because, you know, he's angry with the world. But do you know what just happened to him? You know, he just broke up with his girlfriend. He's walking down the road. He's angry with everybody, right? You get angry, get in a fight, you know, end up in hospital, or he ends up in whatever, you end up in prison, right? But you don't know his circumstance. So if we look at anger and someone being angry at me, well, I don't know their background, but I only can get angry if they get into me, they get into my being. So in the reference of they insulted your mother, but I say to myself, but you don't know my mom, so why am I going to get angry at that? If anything, I smile. You know what I mean? I smile, you know, and this is knowing self. The other day, I'll give you an example. You said that I was driving down the road from martial arts. And this lady wanted to cut me off and drive me into the side of me. I slammed the brakes and she's out the window. So I don't even know up to now what I did to this woman, right? I have no idea why, because I was driving quite peacefully, just no idea, right? Now again, the average person would have been swearing back but I was like, I don't know what she's going through. I don't know what, she's got some mental health issue. I don't have a clue. But I just looked at her and I went, continue driving. You see what I'm trying to say? Because to use my energy for that stuff is just a waste of time. Do I experience sadness? Of course I experience sadness. My sister called me yesterday, I'll share this. My sister called me yesterday and said that my my niece is in hospital. She had had fever and she had a seizure. She's in hospital. They're doing tests, blah, blah, blah. So that's sadness. You see what I mean? But again, I said to my sister, it's going to be good. It'll be fine. Keep me posted. I'm here. Call me if you need me. You know what I mean? Because I believe firmly in positivity, and I believe in that's out of my hands. So it's not that I don't feel the remorse. Of course I feel the remorse. Of course I feel upset for her. You know what I mean? But it's in a bigger hands. In that, you know, she will pull out of it. You'll be fine. Just remain calm and be supportive for my sister at the time. So I rationalize and think and internalize every situation that happens. I make sure to give it, it's almost like take a breath before you answer. So a lot of people rush to talk because they want to be heard. I pause and I listen and I think. Even if that pause is for a millisecond, and think, this is how I'm gonna say, I'm gonna proceed. And I learned that a lot from my martial arts, because Sifu taught me you don't raise your hand to say, well, I think you do this. Either you know or you don't know. So that rational thinking of having to speak when spoken to, and also speak when you know for sure 100%, because martial arts is not about in between. Because if someone pulls a knife on you, you go, I think I can defend it. Well, you may end up dead. You know what I mean? But if he pulls a knife on you, you go, I know I can defend it. That's a different conversation. So you either know or you don't know, right? So I take the time to know, what is the action? Now, I'm not going to say to you that I wouldn't get angry. But you see, anger and darkness sits in all of us, right? It sits in all of us. All of us have that. And what people do, they run from that darkness. You know, I've got a past and I had trauma in my past, and let me try to get away from that. And it's like you're running and it's chasing and it's chasing. I embrace my darkness. He is a part of me. You understand? And I use him. And that goes to anger, that goes to fear, that goes to all. I use them to I control them. So yes, I can get angry. So if some person hits me and attacks me, I will use the anger. I will use the darkness. You see what I mean? But the darkness doesn't use me, because I am in control of it. If that makes sense. And that again boils down to sitting down and having thought yourself.
It comes down to, you can't control the situation. You can't control your reaction.
But you can control yourself, right? But to control yourself, sometimes you got to take a second to go think about the action. Think about the action. And people don't do that. People react with the first emotion, which is normally the adrenaline, the anger, that ego, right? People don't fight because of, one is bigger than the next. Some people fight because of disrespect. But who governs the disrespect, right? So I said to you, I have my boundaries. I know clearly the line of disrespect and not disrespect. You see what I mean? And I don't cross that. And that's non-negotiable. That I live by those values. So that answers. I hope that answers the question. Right.
But have you had any situations where your kindness, where your rationalism was mistook as probably weakness? Has it happened?
Yeah, of course. People will take advantage of my kindness. I'll tell you that. People will use me, and I've done the world for them, and they stab me in the back and what's not. But remember, we had the conversation already. It's not my place to judge. You understand? And I believe karma is a thing. We know karma is a thing. And at the end of the day, but it's not my place to think. So I will forgive them, and they will be out my circle, and from around me. I'll forgive you. You're forgiven, and we can have a conversation. I'm good, but it's okay. I no longer buy what you're selling. You know what I mean? I don't wish to partake in that anymore. But yeah, so 100%. My kindness is taken for granted, and has been. But I no longer react to that, and it doesn't stop me from being kind, because God said we're supposed to give back and we're supposed to be kind. So only Him could stop me from being kind. So just because all three of you in here, or four of you in here could be unkind and stab me in the back, it's not going to stop me from being kind to the fifth person out there, because maybe that fifth person will appreciate it. You see what I'm trying to say? I don't live by that. I don't live by regret. I don't live by things like that.
Since we've been talking, I know for sure that you can answer this very rightly. How do you think someone should tackle disrespect? What do you think how do we do that?
It depends on the situation.
It must be. Yeah. I'm asking in terms of more educational, like enlighten me.
How can they? Okay, how can you manage disrespect for yourself?
Disrespect. let's say this person X.
Have you? So let me ask you a question. Have you sat down and written down your yes and no's? Have you sat down and written down like your non-negotiables?
Yeah. I do.
So at the end of the day, I know exactly what I will do in certain situations. So if a guy walks in here right now and pulls a knife, do you know what you would do?
I know.
Yes. So you see, you're unique like that. But a lot of people don't. You've taken the time. So that's the answer to your question. You've taken the time to sit down and analyze scenarios and exactly how you would respond. So for me, it's just I unlock that box because that's it. So you know what I mean? So I've taken the time to go, what would I do in this situation? What would I do in that situation? I write them down. I know exactly what I'm going to do if someone pulls a knife on me. I know exactly what I'm going to do if someone pulls a gun on me. I know exactly what I'm going to do if someone is angry and shouting at me. You see what I mean? Again, I know exactly. You know, I know exactly what I'm going to do if my child is threatened. You know what I mean? Or I'm in that situation. So I have spent the time to think about those things and to make note of those things so that when they happen or if they happen, I have the answers. Because the only time that we don't know how to deal with disrespect is if we've never encountered it and we've not thought about it. And so then the emotion takes over and the ego takes over. But if you understand, okay, well, he could disrespect me by calling me names, by stabbing me in the back, by stealing my girlfriend, if you've checked all of those boxes, then you should know how you would react. And then you know how to deal with the disrespect.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, vision, values, and direction. This is it. Everything starts with values. Then you must have vision. And then there must be a direction. And that's a part of my program, not to sell it, but that's a part of the program. And again, I came up with this just based on the things that resonated with me. So if you infringe on my values, I know exactly how I will respond. You know what I mean? In regards to that. And I don't break from that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not saying, look, you may not agree with my approach, but it's my approach. You see what I mean? And we must all deal with these things how we see fit, not how someone tells us to. Because someone telling us to, that's their way. You know what I mean?
You know, I completely second this because I always tell people that you have to have your boundaries. You know, you have to make sure that that's there. And I specifically make sure that I don't cross any others. You know, I always have that in my mind. And second is, since you're talking about vision, right? I've always mentioned to my friends as well, not to everyone, of course, who I talk to generally. I tell them that you got to have a direction. I believe most of the people, they are directionless.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
I really believe, because I'll be very honest, I'm not a saint. I've had my own, ups and downs. And I've seen myself, I've seen my growth, tremendous growth, only when I had my direction, right? Because they were my friends who know me, they know me that I do 10, 20 things together. You know, sometimes I'm doing something and then 2 days later I'm doing something else, and then 3 days later I'm doing something else. I never stuck myself on what I want to do. The moment I spoke to myself and I was like, you know, this is the direction I want to go, I think that changed completely. And I really tell people that you have to have what you want to do, like have a purpose. If you really have that purpose, nothing can stop you to go.
Of course.
There. And I think that's where people mistake it. That's where people go wrong. They just don't know how to reach or how to go, or even a goal, per to say. But having said that, I want to understand how do you deal with conflicts in your company? Not about the spiritual journey or your personal life, but I want to understand, how do you take care of conflicts in your work?
Yeah. So just now, before I answer that question, I would say you said something that was very good. I think people lack direction because they worry of failure. Does that make sense? So I believe that they may have 50 ideas, but one of those ideas are scary because, you know, so let's look at work. If I go down the line, if I take the risk and do this and I give up my job and I go down this line that I'm feeling, I may end up broke. So I don't do anything. You see what I mean? So it's all well and good to have 50 ideas, but if you're afraid to make the step towards one of them, and I think that's the problem. Right. The society, social media, everything is set up along the lines of fear, you know, and they're worried about, but I can't afford to be jobless, or I can't afford to not earn money, or I can't afford to lose my girlfriend, or I can't afford, you see? So then they make no movement. Look, what you're doing here is important. What I'm trying to do is important because sometimes people need that compass. They need the person to say, but why not try it? And if it fails, then you just try something else. You see what I mean? Some person to actually be, but what's the harm in actually doing it? Let's weigh out the harm of doing it. And sometimes people just need that eureka moment to go, you know what? He's right. You know what I mean? But yes, so you asked, how do I deal with conflict? Now, conflict exists all the time. Like, you know, we're human beings, so there will always be conflict. Like, I have structured my company, I'll be very, very honest. I have structured my company in a way that I try to minimize the negativity that's around me. So if you want to think that this is an army and I've positioned my soldiers in place, a HR director, a finance manager, you know what I mean? I've positioned the people in place that they lessen the conflict before it gets to me. Does that make sense? Right? So I'll give you a backstory. A couple of years ago, I was in China and I went to a Buddhist temple, a Taoist temple. And they have something called Buddha's wish. So Buddha's wish, there's a big cauldron, like a pot, and it spins. They spin the pot, and you reach in and you pull out like a fortune, right? And the portion that I pulled that time is that I will only be successful, is one of the points. I will only be successful if I have a solid team around me to support me, right? So even that I internalized, and I said, that's a very, very big point. I have a support structure. And look, I'll take it even deeper. I asked my Sifu, who is, as I said, miles above me in regards to his martial arts, his mindset is what, if anything, he's my teacher, you know? And I said to him, but why didn't you take this to the world? And you know what he said? And this was nothing even to do with that, but because I had logged that, my mind works that way, I can remember, I've logged that in my head. He said to me, Damani, I never had the team around me that believed in it to be able to take it to the levels, to take it to the world. And I said, and I said, there it is. You see, the team is important. So anything you build, whether it's a friends network or whatever, conflict will exist. But if you have loyalty and you have trust around you with the team members, that conflict and that one person trying to create problems it won't even touch you, because your army will stand up and be like, no, that just can't happen. And that's how I deal with the company. I surrounded myself with loyal people. As I said to you, one of my finance managers is my best friend. You know what I mean? I trust him. Like, and I'm telling you, he's like my brother. You know, my HR director, I was friends with him before I hired him 10 years, 12 years. You know what I mean? I put people in place that I trust. So then the question be, like, even Santosh, well, how did I know to trust him? Well, I didn't hire Santosh. My HR director and someone else interviewed him, you know what I mean? And he was hired by them, and we built that relationship. Now I can be very, very honest. If when we met and we didn't get on energies wise and we weren't a fit, then he wouldn't be here.
No, so the conflict question is because, of course, I also run organizations, and I just wanted to understand, because I think we had a couple of CEOs also here, and the first thing that I ever asked them is, how do you manage? It all comes down to people, of course, right? At the end of the day, of course, we have AI now, which, you know, of course, it's a other topic altogether. But I believe that you can't reach to that level without a team. Of course, right? Of course, I mean, there's a certain limit that you can go, that you can push yourself, but you actually go there. There should be people who you can trust, right? Who you can trust, and of course, that doesn't come handy if you're overdoing it, or you are expecting too much from them. Yes. But at the same time, I think when you're having those expectations limited and you know what is to be done, what is not to be done, I think that's where things get easier. But I really wanted to understand, because for the person you are, I wanted to understand what kind of a CEO you are. So let's say if you can describe yourself as a CEO or as a founder in 3 words, how would you describe yourself? Now
that's a very interesting question. I'll be very, very, I don't think anything of myself like that. Right. So it's like, if I talk outside of CEO for a second, some people see themselves as alphas, and I'm that bravado, and I got the tattoos and I got the body, and I don't even see myself as that. I just am. And I really hope that makes sense. I just am. So Santosh and everybody will let you know that the Damani that I am as a CEO is the Damani that I am sitting in front of you here, is the Damani that I am when I go home. I am the same person in all elements. It does not change. I am just me. And I lead based on me and my values and my beliefs and what I feel. And I do not change that from work life to enjoy my journey, inspiration, coaching, to my home life, to my martial arts. I'm consistent with that person throughout, right? So how do I see myself as a CEO? I see myself as a very kind one, a very giving one, you know what I mean? But that's not CEO, that's just me. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I don't separate my personality based on its business. Now, again, don't get me wrong, I got directors that tell me this is business and you shouldn't feel anything and da-da-da, you know, you need to separate and detach, and I don't have attachment to people. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. You know, that's my HR director. He's like that. He's willing to just chop the head off and move on very quickly. But I don't believe that. Because again, everything we do involves people. People have emotions, people have feelings, people have whatever. So I can't lead based on the non-attachment and what's not, just work, because then we go back down to what I said in the beginning of selfishness. I'm just using you like a work mule to get what I want to make me richer. No, I believe that you should all grow and become successful, you know. So that's the CEO I am.
How's the relationship with your parents?
Great now. Great, absolutely wonderful now. You see, I went through a number of years where I think they didn't understand me. You understand? And there was conflict, and to an extent I broke away from that. You know, we always spoke, but I broke away and distanced myself to find who Damani needs to be. You know what I mean? And so back in the day, I was, again, this is the child that doesn't check in too often, and you know what I mean? Like, as I said, I saw myself for a long time as a black sheep. But then, as I said, self-discovery, when I went to get diagnosed with autism and I told my parents, I could see their faces. I could see my mom's face, because here's the child that actually had an issue.
And we just couldn't understand.
And they didn't understand it, and they treat me a certain way, you know, because of that, and because not knowing that I could see it, and I was fine. I told them it's fine. I'm good with it. I'm glad, you know. I'm glad for the hardship that they put me through and they put me towards, because it made me into this person. Again, everything must happen to lead to the individual you're supposed to be. So, yeah, I think that's the best way to answer that question. I just, after the understanding, they pretty much said, they pretty much established the relationship and understood the relationship, So I'm not the type of kid that I need to speak to my mom and dad every day. I might speak once every week and a half or 2 weeks, you know, but when we speak, we may spend an hour on the phone. You know what I mean? And they now understand, well, this is just who he is. I'm never out their mind. They know that they're never not in my mind. But they know that I don't need to have a conversation. And there's the autism, you know, I don't need to have a chat and catch up every single day. I'm not that kid. My sister is. My sister and them talk every day, but it doesn't mean that the relationship my sister and them have, I don't have, because if anything, I am involved in their business. I'm a director of their business now at home. I help them, you know, a lot with stuff. I'm on their accounts. If anything, I'm the one to, if they pass away or if they whatever, to kind of take the reins. And I never asked to be, but they trusted in me to do that, you know. And yeah, as I said, we have a very wonderful, and if anything, they don't say it because they're not that type of way. I would think that they're pretty proud of me now. Based on, I mean, I heard my dad say it one time that, you know, his son never did it the way he thought that he should do it, but he's done well for himself. You know what I mean? Like, I never followed the script that they set out. I always followed my own, but I've done, you know, and I think because of that, we have a very good relationship now.
Yeah. Hopefully, I also want my dad to talk the same things about me.
Yeah, exactly. But they're old school, you know. They don't open up and express their feelings, you know. And I accept that as well as to who he is, you know. So, yeah.
You just mentioned that you saw that guilt in your mother's face.
Yes.
Did she forgive herself?
Let me say this to you. So when we talk about forgiveness, right? Sometimes you have to forgive those for them to learn. So my mom, I'll give you a personal story. So my mom, back in the day, used to be very friendly with, very, very close with her sister, and they used to get together, and they were very negative at times. You know what I mean? And it caused a lot of conflict with, you know, me and her and whatever over the years, you know, which we had to iron through. And as I said, when I went through that forgiveness journey, you know, the guru said sometimes you need to forgive the person, and then they will change. right? And one of my big forgives was, forgive my mom for some of and she never listened. She never treated me bad and left me in a way that I would have been exposed to harm or anything like that. But sometimes it was the jarring and the making fun or the strictness that my sister didn't get, and that type of stuff that I got that was a bit, So I forgave her, and my mom, I genuinely forgave her, and my mom changed. Now, I have no idea the factors that led to her changing, but she changed completely. Her and the sister, they still speak, but she won't go there and stay with my sister anymore. The sister doesn't fly to Barbados to see her anymore like that. I don't know what happened, and it's not my place to ask. But my mom changed. And I said, you see, now this is powerful, to give forgiveness. And as I said, we have my mom manages all of the accounts for the Barbados business. That would have been something that never happened back in the day. But now she's in charge. She pays the money, she allocates, she does all. We have that relationship, we have that trust. And she completely changed herself, and that was down to, I firmly believe, to me letting go of all that past foolishness and just accepting and forgiving who she was. Man, she made herself better and more peaceful and more enjoying her life and what's not. And I've seen it. And my family and cousins have seen it. Your mom, I had a cousin come up to me and say, your mom has really changed who she is. And I said, I can see it, I can feel it. And that's powerful. So think about it. Think about that one person. All of us had it. That one person in your life that did you so wrong that you just can't let it go. And the ties and the anger that still brings you now. And you can work towards just letting that go. And then you watch that person not affect you anymore, and then you watch that person become a better person as well. That's powerful. And that's God's work. There's nothing, there's no two ways about that. So there's power in that. That's the honest answer anyway.
Right. Yeah. And this would be the last question, and sure. I really want to understand what has fatherhood changed to you, or what did it teach you?
Now that's a very lovely topic. Now this is big. Fatherhood is one of my driving forces, right, in my life, because yes, I had a good father. I had a very defendable father, and he raised me to the best of the ways he believed that he should, and I give him that kudos all day. And I hope to do the same for my son, because I do believe that, and my kids, not only son, I do believe that they are the future of me. And if anything, I may be speaking out of turn, but I would like to think my father thinks that I've done well for myself. Maybe I've surpassed him to an extent, and I expect many children, my children, or any children that I have in the future, to do the same for me. So the relationship with my son is very, very good. I don't shout, I don't whatever, he said to me, Dad, one of the things I like about you a lot is that you never shout at me, because I do what we're doing. If there's an issue and there's conflict, there's detention at school, there's whatever, we sit down, we have a chat, you understand? We have a conversation, and we explain, and because I believe in accountability for actions. You're accountable to your actions. So at the end of the day, it's a harsher statement for me to say I'm disappointed in you than to raise my voice and shout to you as to a kid. Because when I raise and shout and what's not, they rebel. No, we talk. And I want to lead him like that and show him. But you mentioned legacy. Legacy is important. I want to pave the way to show him this is the expectation. This is what I believe life is. So I'll give you an example. He's got a YouTube channel. 10,000 followers plus. I think he's probably at 15 now. 15,000 followers. Gaming. He loves gaming. Gaming channel. He records the games and talks and whatever. He's
streaming.
He's completely anonymous. No one knows it's him. He's got a fake, a made-up name, etc. And he's quite good with it. Right? It's done really, really well. And I said to him, tell me the reasons why you have your YouTube channel. And he said to me, yeah, because I want to be rich, and I want to be famous, and I want to make money off a thing, and da da da. I said, no. I said, give me more. I said, give me more. And he looked at me like, I said, I want something deeper. I want something real. And he said, I do it because it makes people happy. And I said, that's it. This is what I said to him. This is a conversation we're having one-to-one. I said, that's it. I said, you do it to make people happy, and every video you release is with that mindset to make people happy, because that falls into the love, the kindness, and the whatever. And you do it that way, Zayvon, and you will be big. You will be huge. You see what I mean? But don't do it for the fame and the whatever and the thing. I teach that to him. So again, that's the building blocks or the paveway, the pathway to success. I hope to be something that when he gets older, he'll be like, Dad, you were inspired me. You spent your life trying to inspire me, you know? And that's how I raised them, and that's the relationship that I have, and I hope to continue, you know what I mean, with him as he grows in, because we're in teenage years now, so it's a bit of a messy one, you know what I mean, I think, and you're fighting the friends and the influences, but that's why this is important. You see, the conversations are important, to make sure that he remembers home, that when the temptation hits, he's rooted, you know what I mean. I mean, he does martial arts and all of that as well, but that's very important.
Right. You know, someone like you who celebrates or who appreciates every small thing, small details. I want to understand, what is the biggest thing that has happened to you and the worst thing that has happened to you?
Biggest thing that's happened to me is the ability to find calm and peace, because again, I have a mind that it is constantly going. So what makes me good at speaking is that I've always got 3 answers in my head going at the same time, and I'm able to chop and change those answers to, especially, so I read cues very well. So if I say something and it doesn't read with you, I can read the cue and I could change it and adjust it in the conversation. So I've always had to be able to calm that, you know what I mean? So I used to have to come home, and even if I get home at 1 o'clock in the morning from work, I gotta sit down and watch TV for a bit to bring my mind down. If not, I can't sleep, you know what I mean? So one of my biggest achievement was to achieve the calm, you know, the peace. And you asked me, what was the second one? The worst thing that's happened to me? I mean, I guess one of the hardest things that I went through, okay, so it was probably when I split from Zaven's mother, and not because of the relationship end, that wasn't it, but I was in a scenario whereby I was in a country and I don't have any family, and I was on my own, and I was too proud to be like, I need help. Like, you know, who wants to help me? Again, the problems, right? Again, I don't want that attention. I don't want people to pity me and what's not. So it was but I did have people that did, like Sifu, like he helped me and he guided me, and he actually helped me get my first apartment when I had nowhere to live, because I came home one day and my stuff was on the street. You know what I mean? That's how that went, you know? So I've been through the struggle. So technically I was homeless, you know? So I've had that road. I've had the road where I'm in the UK, I've given up this job, I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent this month. I've had those struggles, you know what I mean? Which I think puts me in a unique perspective to help people, because I've been broke, I've been homeless, you know what I mean? Where I'm driving with a carload of stuff in the back and I don't know what I'm going to do. Luckily I had a storage lockup that I could put it in for the night and find a hostel somewhere or some cheap hotel that I could lay my head. So I've done all of that. So that, yeah, but struggle is important. To be able to achieve, you must have. So the yin and yang symbol that I have is very thing. There must be, with every good there must be bad, and you must experience bad and hardship to be able to go to good. You see what I mean? So I don't. It's not. And again, look, me and Zaven's mum, we have a great relationship now. It's not like, okay, we're not friends that we walk down the street holding hand, because I don't forget. You see what I mean? Don't get me wrong. But there's no conflict. And she may try it, and she may say things, and she may try to agitate, but back in the day, and then I'm calm. I don't rise. So if she sends a message that's riddled with emotion, I may wait a day. Let me respond tomorrow morning. If it's not urgent, let me respond tomorrow morning, because she'll be calmer then, and then we'll have a proper discussion. You see, but you learn the individuals that you deal with. I understand everybody I work with, everybody that I interact with. I get to know them. I understand how to deal with them, how to approach them, because everyone must be approached uniquely. You see what I mean? So yeah, so struggles are very, very important to achieve betterment and greatness. You see, to meet some person that say I'm great and they've had no struggle, I don't know if I could believe that, because the true look, if we go back to biblical times, if we go back to things, every whether it's a guru or Jesus Christ in the Bible had struggle. There was struggle, right? But then there's also forgiveness. That was very, very big. Remember, so to quote the Bible and to end, he was nailed to the cross and he looked up and said, Father, please forgive them. That's huge. That should show you exactly what we talked about for the whole call, that forgiveness is paramount to life. And I'll leave it there. Yeah. Anything else? You can ask me whatever you want. Yeah.
What are your views on a partner now?
Sorry?
What are your views on a partner? How do you see a partner in someone's life? What are your views on it?
That's a hot topic. Okay, so
how do you view?
I'd be very, very honest with you. Look, I will never disrespect. I will never whatever. Any person that I'm with, they will be treated to the best that I can treat them. It's just me. You know what I mean? But partnership isn't on my list of things. I'll be very honest with you. I believe in focusing on self. If I can be the best self that Damani can be, then I'm good for all those around me. So that will count. So the partner question, the children question, the people friendship question. I need to be the best version of me, the most contented, the most peaceful person of me to be able to successfully have a partner. And look, and I'll say, this is Sifu's quote, this is not even me. A partner must walk the path. You must both walk your own paths, right? Those paths may cross when you come together to do things, but they must be unique and they must support each other. If she's going one way and I'm going one way, it never works. You see what I'm saying? So the journey must be aligned. They don't have to be the same. She must walk her journey and you must appreciate her journey. I must walk my journey. You see what I'm trying to say? And we can walk those, so the road may be here and her road may be there, but we're walking the road. Once it's forward, I don't go back. And once we're on that road together, then we'll have a great relationship.
When you just mentioned that you're homeless and you know everyone would have helped you, but you did not want that attention.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem taking help from people?
I just never needed it.
Okay.
It's not that I have it. So I'll give you a funny story now, since it's been very, very serious. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when I split from my ex, I did go to counseling with her. You know what I mean? And that it was like, oh, let's try it. It was my idea.
Which year was it?
Oh God. Well, my son is 14 and we split when he was about 7. So this is about 7-8 years ago now. We split.
Okay.
Right? So I suggested maybe we go counseling. We try to reconcile and fix this.
Right.
And I end up going to counseling and we're talking and just how we're talking now. And obviously then I always knew I had a bit of a unique mind. But I got the counselor and her bawling down the office. And I'm sitting down there looking at them like, I honestly, on that day, I said to the counselor, I don't need to do this anymore. I literally said that because, again, I go to counseling and the counselor's crying. You see what I'm trying to say? And I'm looking at them like, I don't understand why you're crying.
Right.
You know, if anything, she's asking me questions and I'm asking her questions. I'm breaking her down, the counselor. So counseling has never worked. It doesn't work for me. I would need to have some person that's on the wavelength that I am. You see what I mean? That can actually, and it's not even counseling. I'm not sitting here thinking that, oh, I've just taught him something. No. If anything, I've shared your wavelength and we agreed on certain points and I have some takeaways from you and you have some takeaways from me. We aligned in the direction that we're going, which is for both of us that way. We're going forward. Positivity to help people to lead. So counseling, if you're going to say meet with some person that's going to make me aware of things about myself that can help betterment, that's great. But if you could just sit down there and expect me to tell you my problems, well, that's a waste of time for me.
Right.
Because that doesn't give me solutions. Yes, and look, don't get me wrong. Some people do need to hear. You understand? I don't need to, you know, because maybe it's my autism, maybe I don't want to talk about, you know, things. And also now I've forgiven in myself. I have my own process. So yeah, I'm not saying that it's not important. I'm just saying that based on what I've been through, I've never needed it, if that makes sense. Or never thought to myself that I needed it. Maybe someone thought that I did, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say not, you know. I can be big enough to say maybe at some point my mom said, you need help, you know, maybe, you know what I mean? Right. But at the end of the day, I never thought that of myself that I did. And my pride and stuff comes from, it's just how we were brought up that way, you know what I mean? I never want people to see, oh, Damani, and pity me. I'm not that guy, you know, and very much so, I won't pity some person. Now let me say that, I will give you the tools for you to help yourself. I will understand your plight. I will share a similar plight that I had, that's similar to yours, to help you get out of it. And you can ring me, you can call me up anytime you need. I can talk you down. I will show up for you. I'm that guy. You know what I mean? But we are going to be constantly working towards you pulling yourself out of that trauma. So, and that's what I believe. I just, like, luckily, or maybe is blessed with the ability to maybe handle it and do it on my own at this point of my life. Because again, I'm not testing fate or karma and saying that let the Lord give me something that I really gotta, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying at this point I haven't needed it. You know?
I'll wrap it up with this last question because I've been asking you lots of last questions.
Okay, that's all right.
What is a quote or what is something or a line or something that you live by that has changed your life or has changed the way you look at life?
Oh, I always have quotes. I make them on the fly and they're very, very good. I'm just trying to think of a very impactful one.
Right. Oh, I'll share mine so that maybe you can. So the quote I was seeing this movie and I heard it in the movie. It goes like this, that when people say that they love you, it's not because you're special. It's because you're lucky to have people who can love you.
That's beautiful.
I think that has actually changed me a lot. Because most of the times, like, you know what, people love me because I'm special, but then that's not the case. It's the people who actually make you special.
I like that. It also teaches you that don't see yourself as special. I don't see myself. Remember, I say again, I don't see myself as unique. I get that all the time. You are an amazing person.
Right,
you are unique. Blah blah blah. I don't. None of that seeps in. You understand? Because I don't see myself as that. So I love that because you should be loved for just who you are. I'll just add to your quote this saying, and it's not going to be long, and it's nothing major and whatever. But life is based on experiences. We said this in the lift. Because someone said I believe you said life is based on fun. So I went to this on purpose. Life is based on experiences, whether those are good or bad. Right? And I don't know who said that quote. I'm just saying it to you. That I live my life by that. In that life is based on experiences, and it's our responsibility to look for that and look for that experience. Right? Whether it be good or bad. Because no experience we have doesn't help build who you are. And that would be my quote.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was great having you.
It was amazing having you. It was amazing being here. Thank you so much.
It has been months that I've had this kind of conversation. It was really amazing.
Yeah.
And I did not want to go anywhere else. With the subject. I really wanted to stick here to the human that
and
you are.
My first, and just a note, you're my first podcast.
Oh, right.
You're my first podcast. First person that I've accepted, I should say, because I've been offered a few, but you're the first one. And it's because Santosh, he vouched for you. He's like, you got to, you know what I mean? And I said, yeah, I'll be here. So you're the first person.
And I hope it was
good.
Worthwhile.
It was good. I hope it was for you as well.
Of course it was. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.